Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good. It's great to see everyone. All right. Well, this facility is really impressive. You've got a ton of kind of real estate here in San Diego. I was not aware of that, or no. I think most of you are from San Diego, but this is pretty impressive. Before we get started, I did want to do a little bit of introduction on who Don is. Most of you probably know who he is, but I'm going to read this first, if that's okay. Just to get through a little bit of your bio. You're the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Qualcomm. And prior to taking this role, you led the Global Product and Technology Marketing Organization. You've got over 25 years of experience as a marketing leader, and you've worked across a number of industries. You're even a founding member of a marketing strategy firm, so I read. So you know a little bit about marketing here that you can impart on all of us. For the last 2 years, you've been recognized as one of the world's most influential CMOs by Forbes, and you were recently recognized on the 2024 Forbes Entrepreneurial CMO 50 list. So really, really impressive, and we're really lucky to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank all of you for coming out, San Diego. It's amazing.
Awesome. Well, we've got a short amount of time, and I have a lot of questions for you, so
sure.
Let's dive right in.
Fire away.
Yeah, all right. Hot seat. Well, Qualcomm has historically been known as a wireless company, but you all do so much more. In our research, in our chat just earlier, in talking to folks on your team,
right.
you guys do a lot. Could you kind of read us in on who Qualcomm is today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if those of you who are here from San Diego, been in San Diego a long time, if you're familiar with us, for things other than a stadium that used to stand in Mission Valley. I kid you not, people still think when I say
really?
Qualcomm, oh, did you work at the stadium? Yes, I sold hot dogs. So it's amazing because there's almost 20,000+ of us here in San Diego living in the community and having neighbors and living on streets. And there's still this lack of awareness of what this amazing company that has really changed the world has done over the last almost 40 years now. This is our 39th year of being in business. And yes, we started out as a wireless technology company. We connected your phone to the internet. Without us, your iPhone would be an iPod, ladies and gentlemen. And that's about it. And so that's our core DNA, and that's where we came from. But over the years, because we have this amazing group of thousands of inventors that work for this company, both here in San Diego and around the world, we've developed and evolved how we approach technology. And what was once a tiny little connectivity modem, which is where we started, plus a massive IP portfolio, which we license, we started building other capabilities on top of that. And those capabilities are in areas like compute. So things like that power your PCs, or that power the experiences that you now can enjoy on your smartphone that are not connectivity related, or in combination with connectivity. And then all the amazing new things that are happening across devices. As devices become smarter and as they become more connected, we're usually at the heart of that phenomenon. Whether it's your glasses, your goggles, your watches, your earbuds, your car, we're there. And most of the time, that little chip or multiple little chips that are making all these amazing things happen is called Snapdragon, with some sort of product name after that. And so that's kind of how we've evolved, and we've diversified outside of just powering the mobile industry over the past several years into now being responsible for the digital transformation of the automotive industry, for example, with the advent of new realities, with spatial computing. And if you were paying attention at all and not living in a cave, last week we had a pretty major announcement with Microsoft about how we're entering the PC compute space in a massive way, and really bringing leadership back to the Windows ecosystem. From a PC perspective. So we're just going gangbusters in diversification, and we're becoming this company that is not just known for connectivity, but it's about delivering intelligent computing everywhere. Awesome. And the intelligent is a nod towards what Shelly just scared the crap out of you with, which is AI. This company has been researching, developing, commercializing AI for the past 14 years. So we're no stranger to AI. And by the way, AI has been around for a long time. It's just running in the background, and the awareness has not been there. And then all of a sudden, ChatGPT launched, and it was the press release for AI with most people. And since then, that's all anybody can talk about. The computing is really a nod to how we've built compute capabilities on our chips that now can power amazing PCs, and now that can power autonomous driving in your car and can make your smartphone smarter. And you can do more things with it. And then everywhere is really a nod to our connectivity DNA, right? Where we came from, which is connecting things, connecting you to things, connecting things to things, and connecting things to the environment. And so that's how we've sort of built our architecture for the company. And that's going forward sort of what we stand for and what we do. And if you ladder up from intelligent computing everywhere as a brand, in purposefulness of society and humanity, we are all about engineering human progress. And an engineering is a nod to our thousands of engineers who work tirelessly in labs, in offices, in cubes, at home, in garages, wherever they may be around the world, and really coming up with this amazing technology. And the human is really about this all has to attach to and connect to humanity in some way, shape, or form. And then progress is all about moving forward, because that's all we've ever done. And all we've ever known how to do is innovate, is continue to innovate. And innovation is at the heart of what we do. And innovation requires collaboration. And so we are a very collaborative environment, sometimes a little overly consensus driven, but it all ends up in creating some amazing things from an output perspective. So that's a little bit about the company and who we are. It's an honor and a privilege to kind of lead the marketing organization for this amazing company, because every day there's something new. Every day there's a breakthrough. And so that makes it kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to the people who sell, sugar water or soda or whatever it is they're selling. But this is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, I love the way you put it, engineering human progress. I think that's such a great way to frame what we're all here to talk about today. I know you're a big believer in disruptive technology. Yes. You just mentioned AI. We heard Shelly talk about AI. I'm kind of in I'm a little nervous camp about it, but I'm pushing forward. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your perspective on human and AI collaboration and what that looks like.
I mean, it's interesting. I have two perspectives. One is from the company that has been researching, commercializing, and developing AI technology for a long time, and sort of powering in a lot of ways this revolution. And then the other is a enterprise CMO of a large enterprise having to then work through the deployment of these tools to get better at what we do. And Shelly talked a lot about what we're struggling with every day on how do we take these tools, put them and integrate them into our workflows so that we can move at the speed of TikTok. Because marketing now has to move at the speed of TikTok. And I can't hire enough humans to move that fast. I can't produce enough content to move that fast. And so AI is going to be helpful, if used correctly, in helping us get closer to moving at the speed of TikTok. As we're now at a 2-hour news cycle, basically. Not a 24-hour news cycle anymore. It's like a 2-hour news cycle. So how do you adjust and adapt as a marketing organization? And how do I think about that as a leader of a marketing organization? And that's how we're thinking about how we deploy tools. Carmen True on my team is going to come up a little bit later and talk to you and do a deep dive on some of those tools that we have adopted. And when I've been speaking at different conferences and been on different panels, what I've discovered is there's an 80-20 rule going on right now within enterprises. 80% of enterprises are scared shitless or can't figure out how to bring in AI tools into the enterprise. They haven't figured out a process. There's fear. There's governance questions. There's legal questions. There's cybersecurity questions, and they can't seem to rally around a process to actually try to experiment or try to bring something in. And then there's the 20%, the rabbits, that are actually just moving. They're figuring it out. They're building the plane as it's in the air because they know they can't miss this transition, this inflection point. We are part of the 20%. If we weren't, it would be super bad, since we are a company that's actually deploying the technology in a lot of ways. But we are part of the 20%. We figured out really early on how to build a steering committee made up of key stakeholders across legal, IT, marketing, sales, operations, to vet tools. Right, to put tools through the kind of the proverbial spanking machine of finding out how are they trained, right? Are they safe? Are they going to open us up to cyber attacks? Are they applicable? Are they relevant? Are they going to help us with productivity? Are they going to help us with creativity? Blah, blah, blah. And we put those tools through a process. And we've had several tools pop out on the other side with a thumbs up, especially from our legal department. We have a lot of lawyers here at Qualcomm, in case you didn't know that. And so it was really important that they were a key stakeholder. And we very quickly built a process that's allowed us to vet these tools. And Carmen's going to tell you and give you some examples about some of them. And they have been transformational for my team, which is fantastic. So I'm not going to steal Carmen's thunder. She'll appreciate that. But that's kind of the enterprise CMO in me. Is like, how do I bring these tools in? How do I put them to work for us? And it's not, and again, I know it's scary, but it's happening. It's not going away. So we have to figure out how do we adapt and how do we integrate. I've always been, and maybe I'm a little bit of I've always been a glass is half full kind of person. I don't think it's about replacing jobs. I think it's about replacing tasks. And I think it's about changing the way we work, not eliminating humans from the workforce. If you don't learn new skills, could you be out of a job in 2 years? Yes. But it's the conspiracy theorists and the saber rattlers about, it could eliminate 40% of your workforce, and it's ridiculous, right? Yeah. What it's going to do, it's going to allow people to learn new skill sets. It's going to allow people to actually spend, instead of 20 to 30% of their day on menial tasks, actually on learning, on up-leveling their skills, maybe establishing work-life balance. Maybe that's something that always scores the lowest on any employee survey, is my ability to establish work-life balance. I'm sure you guys have seen this if you do employee surveys. Maybe we can actually establish work-life balance. Maybe we can actually have a life outside of work. Maybe we can go to a seminar. Maybe we can learn something new about ourselves.
Maybe we can innovate.
Maybe we can innovate. Yeah. Maybe we can think and not do. And so that's really what this is all about. Because if you look at how we measure employee success, the things that are always the scores lowest, at least across Qualcomm and even in my team, is I don't have enough time. Right? Time is a commodity you can't buy. It's the most precious commodity on earth. So if we can give people time, that's pretty amazing. Through AI, through the deployment of AI tools, through changing workflows, the way we work, how we work, who we work with, what we work with. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is if you're going to own the output of what you're doing, you still have to, there's still human input and interaction that has to happen, either at the front end, at the back end, in the middle, whatever in that process of all these amazing tools that Shelley just showed you, somehow, in some way, human input is required, or else it's not ownable. And one thing our lawyers keep drilling into our heads, as you create something, what you come out with on the other side, if we want to own it, if we want it to be our IP, you have to put an editorial, human element on top of it. You have to review it, you have to change it, you have to tweak it, you have to add your creative prowess to it, whatever that might be, in order for us to own it. Or else it's just going to go into the big algorithm, right, for the public to use at their leisure. Mm-hmm. And with some stuff that might be okay, but for a lot of stuff, no, we don't want that. That's ours. We want to own that. Right. So that's the other piece of it that we're thinking about every day as we kind of adopt and integrate these tools into our workflows. So that's kind of how I think about it as an enterprise CMO. But in the big picture, it's all about, we still have a job to do. And our job hasn't changed because of AI from what it was before AI. We're responsible for building brand, for nurturing our brand, for protecting our brand, both our master brand, Qualcomm, our company, our reputation around the world with all of our audiences, whether it's investors or policymakers or business decision makers. And then for Snapdragon, it's about our consumer audience, right? And that love technology and really understand that it's not just the logo on the outside of the device or the car or the glasses that's making them so amazing. It's what's happening on the inside.
Right.
That's really what making them amazing. And that's really where we come in. And so that's our job. That's been our job since I've been here. That's been our job, as a company. We just realized it recently that that's our job as a company because this company couldn't spell brand 5 years ago. And so we've come a long way. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at things, and excited to talk more about the actual brand building part of what we do every day for this audience of marketers, with or without AI as a piece of that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot at this conference about kind of shifting the narrative, I'm sure, on AI and what that means for human interaction. But I do want to ask, is there anything that you're doing to prepare your team for the use of AI? I'm sure your colleague is going to talk about it soon, but anything in particular that your team is kind of doing or undergoing to prepare for some of the changes that may come with AI?
Yeah, I think that there's it's one thing to vet a tool and make a tool available, and then there's adoption. People normally don't like change. I'm sure you realize that, right? We just don't like change. As human beings, change is hard, change is tough. And so it's really about this adoption phase. That's really the hardest part, is getting people to change the way they do things. Because you get into a rhythm, you get into a flow, you get complacent with the way we've always done it, the way I've always done. No, but this is the way I've always done things, and it's worked out fine.
It can be better.
Yes, and then we all go into therapy, and we come out on the other side of that, and we realize that there are new ways to do things, and it's okay. So what the team that is responsible for bringing these tools in, and again, Carmen will address this, it's really then how do we drive adoption? How do we put the proper training? We've got some partners in our AI journey, specifically I'll use Ryder as an example, that provide amazing training. And really they disarm, right, the tool with the person who's going to be using the tool, and make it easy for people to start dipping their toe in the water, trying it out, using it. It comes along with things like amazing user interfaces and really natural ways to interact with these tools. So it's that adoption curve that's the biggest challenge, getting people to change the way they do things. And I think Carmen's going to talk more about that. But that's kind of the next phase of this is, hey, we can make all the tools in the world available. But if no one wants to use them, if you don't shift as an organization, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the full capabilities.
Sure. All right, I want to shift us a little bit, or change the topic of conversation to Snapdragon, because it's a really interesting part of the work that you all do. How does this brand, the Snapdragon brand, connect to Qualcomm's overall brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Snapdragon's been around for a while. It precedes me. The name, the brand, the visualization of it, and the products that it's tied to all were developed a long time ago. But then it kind of just sat there. And I think what the company didn't realize is they were sitting on a gold mine of brand, an icon, a name that is just super cool and super great to work with, and it stands for a lot of really great stuff. So we really just started harnessing that power around 2015, and we started to actually market this brand and build a brand ethos around it. And the first place we started to market Snapdragon was in the smartphone space, because that's where it first manifested itself. It's like I said, it turned your iPod into an iPhone, and then it turned the Android ecosystem into a smartphone, and et cetera, et cetera. And then it, as a platform, it started delivering all these amazing capabilities, like better cameras, better audio, better gaming, right, AI, and things like that. And so we took that story and we took it to the place where it most resonated with a broader consumer audience, and that's Asia. And no offense to ourselves as Americans, but we are dumb compared to consumers in the rest of the world. We don't care.
Less educated about technology than the rest of the world.
And it's not about, it's just we don't care. And I'm just making a generalization here. Some of us do care, but as a general population, as Gen Pop, it's got a fruit logo on it. It's good. I'm good, right? And in Asia, they're like, no, I really want to understand this a little bit better. What's underneath the display? What's making this work? So we started in the places where that most resonates with people, and then we started figuring it out there first, and then we started spreading the word, and we started figuring out how we could take that story and apply it in other regions with other audiences, consumer audiences that may be less educated or may not have an affinity for technology to the same extent. And that's how we started evolving the brand ethos and the storytelling to be to simplify it, to make it more about experiences and less about technology and features and specs. And how do we connect the dots for people, whether they have a deep affinity for technology or a slight affinity for technology? Because we had to do that if we're going to build a global brand.
Sure.
Because you have to connect with people on their level. You can't say one size fits all. Just, it's not true. So we started on that journey about 2014, again, before my time. And then we went through the normal, do we invest, do we not invest? Bloop, 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 bloop. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Finance pulls the rug out from underneath you, and then they put it back under. So we were on this kind of hopscotch of a journey for a while. And then we sort of stabilized on a long-term investment strategy, which really happened when Cristiano became CEO of Qualcomm. And then I, a month later, became CMO. And it's really nice to have a CEO actually, A, believes in marketing, as a business driver and not a shiny object and not a trade show and a press release, and understands that brand value does build business value. And that's unique, I think. Some of the CMO forums I've been to, I've sat through many therapy sessions where CMOs just, my CEO doesn't understand me. My CFO doesn't get it. I feel lucky that I have a CEO and a CFO who's very easy to work with, who's very collaborative, who I can sit down and have a business conversation with, and who now, especially my CEO, believes in the power of building brand, and especially when it comes to Snapdragon over the long haul. So we've been able to establish this beachhead for which we've then built upon for Snapdragon to build a brand ethos and really evolve Snapdragon into our long-term goal. Kind of our North Star for Snapdragon is we want Snapdragon to become a global iconic culture brand. That is a huge ask and a huge task for a product that you can't walk into a store and buy.
Right.
And so now it's been done before. I spent 5.5 years at Intel. If you all remember Intel Inside. Intel is a company that did build brand value for something you could not walk into a store and buy, and they did it brilliantly for 25 years. What happened to Intel, unfortunately, is the world moved on, and the PC it was no longer the center of people's universe. And so they missed that mobile inflection point. And so the brand became less relevant because the product category it was attached to became less relevant. And then they started shifting and blowing up marketing organizations and changing leadership and doing what a lot of companies do. I left before all that happened and came here, luckily. But they did it brilliantly, and I ran that playbook for the 5.5 years I was there, so I understand it really well. And I like to look at what we're doing with Snapdragon as sort of a 2.0, 3.0 version of that. Our opportunity is much broader. We span multiple product categories. That's number one. We're at the precipice of digital transformation in a lot of these categories. That's number two. And we've attached the brand to some amazing innovation territory. And so I think our opportunity is different, and it's much better than even the singularity of the Intel opportunity was for 25 years.
Does some of that innovation that you're talking about, is that the partnerships that you've established through Snapdragon? Absolutely.
So, there's two ways to build brand. There's on your own, and then there's with your partners. If your partners are willing to share sort of that storytelling exercise. Right. So that's kind of how we look at it. And we've got amazing brand partners, right? From Cadillac to BMW to Louis Vuitton,
some small
to
brands,
Samsung, to Ray-Ban, to Meta, just some small brands out there. And we've done it both collectively with them, and then we've done it on our own through things like building community and stuff like that. So we've got a full marketing mix that we leverage all parts of it in order to accomplish what we want.
Great. We've just got a couple more minutes, but I do want to spend time. I think we talked earlier about this idea of building community. I think it's really interesting. I would love for you to give the audience a little bit of education on that, because I think it's really neat what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, two parts of the marketing mix that we really didn't have 2.5 years ago was this idea of community and building brand through community. And then the other aspect was brand partnerships. And so we've introduced both those as pieces of the pie as part of our marketing mix. On the community side, this came from a conversation with Cristiano and I, where he basically asked the question, do you think we could build a fan club, as he put it? I'm like, this isn't Mickey Mouse, but could we build a fan base around Snapdragon? So the first step is I sent my team out to scour the bowels of social and say, are people talking about us anywhere at all? And the answer that surprisingly came back was yes, they are. They're talking about us inside the Android forums. They're talking about us on Reddit. They're talking about us inside of other conversations, but they are talking about us. Okay, great, check that box. Number two is, okay, can we pull them out of that, or can we expand them outside of that and then bring them into a community that is more dedicated to conversations and engagement around Snapdragon and what we do and who we are and what we deliver? And so we started experimenting, and then we tested and we learned, and we figured out the answer to that question was also yes. And then we started building from there. So Snapdragon Insiders, which is our fan community, is now 15 million strong. We just passed the 15 million mark globally, which is astounding. Every day I just am astounded by this. And all the credit goes to the fact that we've done something right. And I've got a great team and great agency partners who have helped fuel this fire and build this community. But we look at it as a pyramid. So we made it really easy to become a Snapdragon Insider. All you have to do is follow us, right, across multiple social platforms: Instagram, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, Bilibili, WeChat, Weibo, wherever your social platform is around the world. Just follow us and you're in. Super easy. The next level of the pyramid is, do you want to engage with us on a regular basis? So are you willing to give us things like your email address so that we can contact you through ChatGPT-4? No, I'm just kidding. So that we can actually have an ongoing conversation. So then you move up the pyramid. And then we have a third layer called access. And what we've learned in analyzing our community is that there's members of our community who actually want to become social influencers in their own right. And so we've created a set of tools that we call Access, and we bring those folks along and help them build their own following. And then the tip of the pyramid is really our Uber insiders. And these are people that are actually driving the community. They're helping us manage the community. They're actually engaging the community and rallying the community around things like photography. Our Shot on Snapdragon phenomenon. We've got amazing insiders who are professional photographers who are driving this production of content on a daily basis through photography, for example. One of the biggest measures of success of any community is how well is it self-managed. Exactly. Right. And so we're starting to see that. And then we build from engagement to advocacy. And we're starting to see that now, where our community is coming to our defense. When FUD comes into the market from our competitors or from others, our community is now coming to our defense, which is amazing to see.
Incredible that you've built this ecosystem. It's really incredible.
Literally,
have these folks do some of the branding work for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So community is a huge part of the mix and how we're driving success of the brand. And then brand partnerships, our partnerships with Mercedes-AMG, Petronas Formula One, Manchester United, our esports, global esports competition, which is now the #1 mobile esports competition in the world, Snapdragon Pro Series, that we've done in partnership with ESL. Because gaming is a huge part of what we deliver as a platform. And mobile gaming is the most democratized form of gaming. It's the most gender neutral. It's the most accessible. So we love that about mobile esports. And things like putting our name on a stadium, Snapdragon Stadium, right? Which is a nod to our belief in our local community here in San Diego. and the pride that we take in the Snapdragon brand and putting it on a state-of-the-art facility like Snapdragon Stadium.
Awesome. So. Well, we are over time, but thank you so much, Don. Please, let's thank Don and all of Qualcomm. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.